Welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show. James Kincaid alongside Chris Davis and Mark Truex. And now we're going to be talking about Masters of the Universe Revelation, and maybe more so the liar-in-chief, the shill-in-chief, Kevin Smith, the fat man who will jump onto any property and just whore himself out, Kevin Smith. And even Mark this weekend at Comic-Con had to admit that he conducted himself in a poor manner during the Masters of the Universe Revelation panel. Even Mark admitted that. And even Mark, your own wife, whilst we were watching Masters of the Universe Revelation, said, this is exactly what James said it was going to be. So,
How rare.
Well, anyway, Masters of the Universe Revelation. Mark and I have watched all 5 episodes. Chris Davis, he fell asleep. You fell asleep, and Davis stayed awake during Loki. So for to fall asleep during Masters of the Universe Revelation is very telling. So we're gonna talk about the show, and we're gonna talk about some of the things that Kevin Smith has said in the wake of the show, and the fact that it's hovering around 32% approval rating from fans on Rotten Tomatoes, which has caused him to turn to fan blaming and insinuating that they are review bombing and just a myriad of other sort of damning statements. He had a full-on meltdown during the live stream afterward. It is sad to behold. I mean, he keeps finding new lows, does Kevin Smith. But I'm glad it happened, because he said some very telling things about how he feels and how Netflix feels, and we're going to get to that. But before we do, let's give the show its moment in the sun, because I know Mark has a differing opinion on it than I do. The positive for me, brilliant animation, really well animated. I like it a lot. And that's really the only sort of positive I have to say about it. Even the voice acting to me was kind of hit and miss, in some interesting choices there, that you bring back the voice actor of Skeletor, but you cast Mark Hamill to voice Skeletor. And I love Mark Hamill, and I am certainly a huge supporter of his career, but that was sort of an interesting decision in a series full of interesting bad decisions. The first 5 episodes of Masters of the Universe Revelation. Mark, before we go to you, Davis, for what you were awake for, what did you think?
I've since watched the remaining episodes, and I thought the first episode was very well done. It was very exciting. The animation was cool. They stuck in the universe pretty well, and it was well done. I will agree with you. Some of the voice acting, namely the 2, well, I wouldn't say main characters for He-Man, but because he's not in it that much.
Masters of the Universe.
Right.
Yeah, it barely had all the Masters. It was like focused on one. Didn't even live up to that promise.
But He-Man and Teela, I was not really a fan of their voices. Sarah Michelle Gellar didn't do much for me, and He-Man just didn't sell it to me either. So,
well, I like He-Man is barely in it then for you,
right? But I felt like the majority of the rest, it was fine. But those 2 are pretty glaring, especially. So, but I did enjoy 4 and 5. So, but episode 2 and 3, those were rough to get through. They dragged. I wasn't really into them, and hence why I fell asleep by the like 10 minutes into the third. So, and I had to go back and rewatch it just so we could talk about it.
I guess to amend my previous statement, I do think that the first episode, for 75% of the first episode, we're cooking, man. It's He-Man. He's, we're doing Masters of the Universe stuff. It's very in line, as sort of what Kevin Smith said. Is that he was going to give us what we wanted and then take it away immediately. For me, the whole show completely fell apart after the death. Spoiler alert, everybody. Sorry, there's going to be spoilers. After the death of He-Man / Prince Adam, the entire series falls apart, specifically when they go back to King Randor and he just verbally destroys Man-at-Arms at first, for not telling him about that, He-Man and Prince Adam were one and the same. But the real sort of just criminal, like, what are we doing here, awful writing, awful storytelling is that in the wake and the death of He-Man and Prince Adam, you have a grieving mother, a grieving father, a grieving Eternia that they just lost their champion. Teela decides to throw down her little circlet and act like that she is the aggrieved party. How dare you keep the secret identity of He-Man from me and call them all out. She disowns her father, she disowns her king and queen and all of the masters of the universe and acts like that this is some huge affront, and the entire show falls off the cliff in that moment. And Mark, I know even you thought that you even commented just like, oh yeah, let's just make it all about yourself. And it was so awful. Even you said that.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. Yeah, that extra little hook, and that's what it felt like episodes 2 and 3 were more about. What was her kind of storming around, turning her back on magic and Eternia and whatnot. It wasn't finding the right in like story engagement for me. But like David said, like 4 and 5 came back around, and then I finally understood where it was like trying to head. And I enjoyed it. I enjoy like then they were on a journey and they're trying to bring He-Man back. And I mean, some of my favorite comic book characters and things like that in fiction die. And then it's resurrection stories. So getting a He-Man resurrection story is cool. Granted, yes, I don't know all the He-Man lore. I can't tell you what happened in the first series. I've read some of the comics and things like that. I love the toys. And so is it engaging storytelling? Some of it was. Some of it was. So
how about
the Teela like getting so upset about everything, and then she became the victim of it when arguably 2 of her best friends have died, finding out that they're one and the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a complete nonsensical story point for her to have that reaction and for her to take it out on every other character as well. And it made Teela the most unlikable character in the whole show.
It made her unlikable.
It's a show, as everybody was talking about before it came out. It's like, this is a Teela show, and Kevin Smith lied about it being a Teela show. But that's exactly what it was. And you made your new main character completely unlikable in the first episode, and it pervaded throughout the entire series too. I feel like we've only gotten the first 5 episodes, so.
Yeah, and I feel like though that's part of her story arc, because in 4, it's finally that connection. Like, 4 wasn't bad.
No. Scareglow, when she is facing off with Scareglow, this is the most just like heavy-handed, over the top. Give me your
fear.
Yes. Yeah. What was her fear, Mark? Her fear was that she was afraid of how fucking awesome she is. That was her fear. Like, go back and watch it. It's like that you make yourself seem ordinary, but really
your family and friends have been lying to you from day one
about a secret identity that was the will of the prince to protect everyone.
Everyone else could trust. Everyone else was trusted.
His own father didn't know.
The king.
His own mother only just sussed it out, because she did the whole Clark Kent doesn't have glasses thing. Or does have glasses.
Doesn't have muscles. Yeah. I don't know. I like that finally in, I think it was episode 5, is like Adam and Teela get to kind of hash it out a bit. And it's good.
Is it?
Like the situation between them becomes good.
How they treat Prince Adam in that episode is horrendous.
I like that.
She's finally reunited with him, and she treats him like shit. Like, he tries to like give her like a warm embrace as a greeting, and she tells him to fuck off again.
Yeah, they have to hash it out, and they do.
Hash out what?
Hash it out.
Like, because the other thing too, so I'm not going to act like I know backwards and forwards the Masters of the Universe cartoon from the 80s and the 2002 version, which Jeff showed me, which is also excellent in its own right. But I was a fan of the show growing up. I was too young to, have that sort of verbatim memory. Loved the toys. My favorite Masters of the Universe character growing up was Man-at-Arms, and he is treated shamefully bad in the first 5 episodes of this series. He is just completely disrobed left and right, whether it's by King Randor or whether it's by Teela in that episode. And then for whatever reason, she's bossing his ass around. He's just like this weak, shell of what Man-at-Arms was, before in Masters of the Universe. But even he like inexplicably, she's just like, I forgive, and they're hugging, and he's crying like a little Kevin Smith bitch in the series. It's just like, it's terrible. But Adam gets completely shunned, and he gets completely sort of disrespected in the afterlife world that they were in.
By Tila at first. Dude, they had to bury it. There was a giant hatchet between them. It had to get buried, and it did.
For the story, yeah, they had to do that, but it should have gone that way to begin with. Like, that should have been an issue.
But once you're there, you got to get out of it.
And even just like the fact that like your main character too, it's like she had to be convinced to save the world. It's just like, she was focused
on her.
Yeah, she's an incredibly unlikable, protagonist, and it was just everything that everybody said going into the show about what it would be about. They were completely right. Kevin Smith completely lied about what this show would be, and I know he's now saying that there's going to be more He-Man in the second half, and that's all well and good. But I think Clownfish. I don't think. Spoiler alert, everybody. In the fifth episode, Skeletor. So they bring Adam He-Man back from the afterlife, only for Skeletor to stab him again. And Mark, I know you said that Kevin Smith. They've released 5 episodes of Kevin Smith's He-Man, and he's killed He-Man twice. I don't think He-Man is. I don't think he's been killed again. So
dude, that was a shocker, though. Come on, that was some good. That was some good twisted.
Awful. Like what? And just this idea that it's like clearly Kevin Smith is exactly what he first outed himself to be, which is not a fan of He-Man or Masters of the Universe. He's just clearly not. And so that's why you see the treatment of this character. Clownfish TV mentioned that, if you want to do this story arc within, this series, might be a fine season 2 or season 3. After you've warmed everybody back up and you've really sort of reestablished what it is that we're doing here, and that Masters of the Universe is a He-Man centric show. That's what it is. That's what it always has been. And I think that if you had done that, if you'd warmed it up a little bit, and this was a big sort of thing that happens in either the second or third season, I think you would have gotten a really different response